These new experimental changes are absolutely bonkers. The new MOIRA meta is finally upon us, and with these Genji nerfs, everything in Overwatch could be changing as we know it. So let's run down these insane changes and talk about the implications for you at your rank, pro meta, anything you need to know. So let's just jump right into it. You might not have a beach bod, but you could still climb to grandmaster this summer season. In order to make it as easy as butter for you, GameLeap.com is 50% off in this insane sale. So what are you waiting for? Go check it out, and I can't wait to see you there. So yes, they actually did it. They buffed MOIRA in a profoundly ridiculous way. I mean, that's all I have to say. It's just actually ridiculous. They also nerfed our favorite Shimada, Genji, after being good for about 2 weeks when he was garbage tier for what seemed like 2 years. So I'm going to talk all about that and talk about the ramifications that this has on the entire meta, which if this goes through, which more than likely it will because most experimental patches do go through, the meta as we know it is gonna be completely different. So we have to talk about all of this. Let's talk about the MOIRA changes first, go through them one at a time, and talk about what this means for you MOIRA mains or anyone that just wants to kill MOIRAs in your ranked games. Now the first thing they changed was the biotic grasp angle was decreased by 37%. Now what this means is it's a little bit harder to grab onto something unless you're legit tracking them. It doesn't give you as much leeway when trying to track someone with your biotic grasp. Now what this does is it actually increases the skill cap, and it will punish players who just can't aim that well. So before, MOIRA had a very low skill ceiling, which meant that you didn't even have to track enemies very well to hit them with your biotic grasp, but now it's quite a bit more difficult to track enemies. So you DPS MOIRAs, you're gonna have to be practicing your aim a little bit more if you want to get the maximum value out of MOIRA. No aim, no brain, must be a MOIRA main. That's about to change, and this is the first change to make MOIRA a more skill intensive hero. Now the next big thing we got to talk about, and oh my gosh, this is nuts, we got to talk about biotic orb, which is basically just insta kill orb now. And basically what they did is first they changed its damage radius from 4 to 3, not too bad yet. Now the projectile will slow a little bit more from 72.5% to 80%. So when it flies near you, unless it's within that 3-meter radius, it will not touch you, and it's going to slow down more if it does touch you. So it's going to hone in more than likely on the first person it sees, and it's not going to zoom right past you quite as fast. But we got to talk about the damage, because now orb scales per how close you were. So before, it would do 50 damage per second no matter what. If it touched you, that's how much damage it did to you. But now, if you're from 0 to 1 meter away, it will do 150 damage per second. Yes, you heard me right, 150 damage per second. That is absolutely insane. Like, I don't even know what to say. I really don't know. That is bonkers. And let's talk about the rest of it, and then I'm gonna break that down a little bit because that is insane. So the next thing is from 1 to 3 meters, it will scale down linearly from 150 when it's at 1 meters to 25 DPS at 3 meters. So it does scale down. And remember, it can only do a total possible damage of 200, so it's not gonna just like insta kill a tank in 3 seconds or anything like that. But the fact is, it could do this insane amount of burst damage. Like, insane, 150 damage worth. So if it's the furthest away, 3 meters, it's gonna do less. But if it's that closer ranges, that 1 meter or less, that 150 damage per second really will just kill you out of nowhere. So okay, we all know how crazy this sounds. Well, yes, you will die less when you're at 1 HP to these random Sumito killing MOIRA orbs that just fly around the map. You can legit just get one-shotted by this thing if you are up close to a MOIRA. A MOIRA can use this for 1v1s a lot more often, which is insane. If she fades into you and hits you directly with this, you could just die from like an astronomically high HP, even if you are a DPS character. Like, she can legit 1v1 a lot of characters now. And then on top of that, you can be randomly killed by a MOIRA orb that one-taps you for 150 HP sometimes. Like, a MOIRA orb could just like fly right into you, and you're pretty high, right? But because of the RNG element, you're gonna get hit by MOIRA orb, and it's gonna do 150 damage to you over the course of 1 second. Now, this is way less likely to happen, sure, but when it does happen, you're gonna be like, I was at 125 HP and I got one-shotted by this MOIRA orb. What the heck? It's gonna be so fun. And by fun, I mean you're gonna want to uninstall Overwatch. So look forward to that. But yes, this might sound crazy, but we haven't even gotten to the most insane thing about MOIRA. And I know I keep using the word insane, but I could also say incredible or loopy or crazy, or I don't know what the word I should use, but the MOIRA team fade is what we got to talk about. So everyone knows MOIRA fade, but after MOIRA fade is over, now, including herself, anyone around her within 6 meters will all fade out for 1 second. Yes, you heard me right. MOIRA legitimately cleanses the entire team, fades them out for 1 second. This means they're immune to all damage, all effects, all ailments, just like a MOIRA fade or a Reaper fade if you faded in and faded out of it over the course of 1 second. So if your whole team gets anti-nated, check. That can get you completely unnated. If your whole team gets gravitic fluxed, yep, y'all all are out of the gravitic flux now. Oh, you're all shattered? Oh, you just dodged the shatter with this. Oh, there's a diva bomb about to explode? Yeah, no one's in the diva bomb. You see what I'm saying here? What in the world is Jeff Kaplan smoking? All joking aside, I'm not trying to get demonetized for profanity, so what the freak is going on? So in reality, this ability gives more like infinite carry potential. Seriously, this could actually just completely outplay ultimates, abilities. You could just save like your McCree from getting dove. There's just so much potential. You could help 1v1s, team fights, being able to give your entire team a fade. That just seems actually absurdly powerful. And yes, the first impression is that this is just something that shouldn't be in the game, but there is a slight silver lining to this, and I'm gonna break it down based on a Reddit post that I saw where someone really went into it, but I'm gonna give you my own take, which is selfish versus team-oriented. So think about like an anti-nade, right? You could use it before team-oriented. You could get fat nades, you could nade your team, you could try to make this insane play on the enemy, and if you nade like 4 or 5 people, you're probably gonna win the team fight, and that is the team-oriented way to use it. But there's also the selfish way, the way where you just nade yourself, and that is the way that you don't really get that much value out of it. So that is the trade-off. It's like that is a decision that needs to be made. If I use it selfishly, then I can't use it to help the team in a team-oriented capacity. It's the same way with this. If you use your fade and you don't save a teammate or an ally, then you kind of let them down because you use it selfishly instead of in a way that helps the team or protects the team. And in the same vein, if you are on the other side of the field up against the MOIRA, if you can force out her fade, then you essentially get so much value because she can't use that fade. And it's really interesting, that dichotomy, that choice, but I still think that this is bonkers. Like, this is so powerful, and it's just gonna change the entire meta in my opinion. I'm gonna talk more about that at the end, but I really do think that this is nuts. It's just nuts. Okay, let's talk about the Genji changes before I talk about the meta, before I lose my mind talking about these insane changes. Okay, let's talk about Genji. So Genji was dumpster tier for so long. I mean, he was probably good for the past 2 weeks, but before he got those huge buffs, Genji was just not very good for an incredibly long period of time. And I don't know if any of you have been watching pro play. It's been great to watch, but I do understand that for a lot of your ranked games, Genji just feels like he has so much impact over your games. So I'm going to keep that in mind. But for a lot of you that are saying, hey, Genji's been dominating my games for the past 2 years, I'm gonna be honest, 90% of those people are probably just Smurfs, or they just played Genji because he's fun. Genji, until these most recent changes, Genji was not good at the highest levels. He was not even playable in Masters. I mean, he was really, really bad. And what they did now with the new changes, they changed his shuriken damage back from 30 to 28, and they upped his recovery time from 0.65 to 0.75 on his alternate fire. So that means you can't spam it as fast. There's a recovery time. Also, when you dash, there's more of a time frame before you can right-click again. So what are we left with on Genji from the previous updates? Well, he does still have Reflect Cancel. And the question that's going to come into your mind is that good enough for Genji to stay meta? Well, probably not, and let me tell you why. Genji needed that burst damage, and the reason that Genji was even playable in the first place is because he had some of the biggest amounts of burst damage in the entire game, and he could do it through shields. Unlike Widow, who up against the double shield meta, she could just get completely walled away with the double shield. Genji could burst a low target, burst them from an extremely high health total before they could get healed through that shield, and Genji needed that burst damage. Now, Reflect Cancel is a great ability, and it's gonna let him get more value and opportunity in like ranked games and just trying to take 1v1s and duels. But from a raw damage perspective, and the fact that they not only downed his raw damage just with his actual numbers of the shuriken damage, but with the recovery time, means that it's a lot harder for Genji to burst people through shields or sneak in, get a kill, and sneak out. he will be far less reliable in general, bottom line. Now, will he still be good? Probably in ranked, he's going to be just fine. Now, will he be meta in pro play? Honestly, most likely not. That's how big of a nerf this is. He could go from the best character in pro play right now to maybe not even playable at all, except for very specific teams with players that were already so insane at Genji that he was played anyways, even when he was pretty bad before. Now, will he be meta at the higher ranks? Probably not as well, because you gotta understand that we're up against double shield. We're in a double shield world, and Genji only saw play because we said before that burst damage. And with that burst damage changed, he probably won't be that meta at the highest ranks, especially with these new MOIRA fade changes that I'm gonna break down in a second. So what are we gonna start seeing from a meta perspective? Well, we're probably gonna see a ton more MOIRA, maybe Brig and BAP to go along with a MOIRA. And Genji was already struggling up against a Brig, and now with the MOIRA team fade, I mean, how are you gonna Blade when the entire team could just become immortal or intangible at a moment's notice for a second? I mean, that could cause you to miss your dash reset. That is just a nightmare, first off. Now, the second thing is an interesting change is because this one MOIRA change going through could actually change the meta as a whole. So if you don't know, the meta right now is Sigma, Orisa, double shield, but there's usually like an Ashe and a Genji, an Ana, maybe a Mercy, it depends. But usually it's double shield with a Genji. That's like the guaranteed thing. Now, the thing is, this might actually allow Ryan Zara to become meta, because the problem with playing Ryan Zara before is getting into a Sig Orisa was really hard due to spam, pull rock, Sigma's ultimate, a lot of these things, but Fade can give you an avenue to actually engage, which is interesting, and Lucio MOIRA might be a legit combo where you could Ryan and engage into them incredibly quickly, and then have this Fade ability, and imagine giving like your Reaper 2 fades, you know, he could get right on top of them, you could speed onto them, the enemy Orisa tries to pull you back, but you all just fade past it, and you just engage onto them extremely fast with someone like a Mei and a Reaper, and that could be like a brawl comp, and I think that that could actually be viable with this change. That's something that's interesting. Now, in general though, dive compositions are going to be straight up impossible. They're going to feel impossible up against a MOIRA. A MOIRA can actually just fade out any weak person. They could fade out your teams that getting dove. They could fade out anyone that is just being dove right on that moment, get them out long enough for them to get healed up. Dive is going to be very difficult up against a MOIRA. It was already not very good before, and now it might be worse. Maybe playing MOIRA with the dive to give your divers like some sort of blink up against some CC. That might be something viable, but I really do know that this MOIRA change is going to change the entire meta. I mean, she's going to be insane in ranked play. She's going to be insane in pro play. Giving a MOIRA a team fade, I don't even know what they're thinking right now, but I want to know what you think. I want to know your opinion in the comments down below. Do you think that this is mental like me? Are you actually just mentally breaking down like I am? Because this is nuts. Like, I don't even understand what balance is anymore. I don't know where we're going. Like, I have no idea, but I want to know what you think. GameLeap.com has all you need this summer in order to surpass your limits, ranking up from one rank to the next, climbing all the way to grandmaster this summer season. Not only that, but this insane sale has it at 50% off. We got in-depth guides on your favorite McCree, Genji, Widow, and much, much more. Come check us out in the links down below and make this a summer to remember. Anyways, that's all I got for you today. Thanks for coming by. I'm Coach Mills, and until next time.